start with locum contributions for Type 2 GPs. If the Type 2 GP has overpaid contributions for their locum work, so let's say that they had thought they would need to be on 12.5% tier rate, so we're paying their contributions at that rate, but when it came to the end of the year, they had earned less than they were expecting to, for various reasons, putting them on a lower tier rate of 9.8%, then that additional amount that the GP has overpaid will be paid back to them from NHS England. So when PCSE have reconciled and processed the Type 2 form, then they will raise a refund request to NHS England for that amount to be paid to the GP. If, on the other hand, the GP has underpaid contributions for their locum work, then they need to pay the shortfall to NHS England's bank account. So the same bank accounts that they paid their contributions when they were submitting A and B forms on a monthly basis. So shortfall amount is paid to NHS England, and they need to complete the shortfall template, the locum shortfall template that's found on the PCSE website, and submit that shortfall template along with their Type 2 form. So once the shortfall payment has been received, PCSE process an adjustment to add it to the GP's PCSE online record, and then they process the Type 2 form. If the Type 2 GP has underpaid contributions for their locum work, but they haven't submitted the shortfall payment when we're processing the Type 2 form, then PCSE will contact the GP to request payment, and we're not able to reconcile the Type 2 form and update the GP's pension record on the NHS pension system until the shortfall obviously has been received. So just to recap, we download the locum shortfall payment template from the PCSE website. That the GP then completes that, make the payment for the shortfall amount to the NHS England's bank account. The BACS reference should be in the format of the pension scheme number. So we've obviously used the example there of 8 ones, but whatever your pension scheme number is, SHO for shortfall, and then MAR 24 would be for the 23-24 year, and that locum shortfall template needs to be submitted via the online inquiry form or the contact us form along with your Type 2 form. And you can go to the PCSE website to find the template.
To find the locum shortfall template, visit the PCSE website and select the resources section at the top of the page. When on the resources page, select GP Pensions Resources. On the resources page, if you look further down, you'll see the option to select the locum shortfall payment template. Once selected, this will download a copy of the Word document to your device.
When we look at the monthly salary rolls for a Type 2 GP, then if we look at contributions deducted from the practice by PCSE based on the annual estimate that was submitted, if contributions have been overpaid by a practice for a salaried GP, the practice will receive a refund in the next contractual statement when the Type 2 form has been processed, and if contributions have been underpaid by a practice for a salaried GP, then the arrears will be deducted from the practice in the next contractual statement that follows once the Type 2 form has been processed. But we also have the reconciliation that the GP themselves needs to do with the practice. So when you look at your Type 2 form, and if it shows that you have overpaid your contributions for your salaried role, then the practice needs to arrange a refund of that overpaid amount. That's normally via the local payroll, so you would liaise with them to get confirmation of that, and that will happen once the Type 2 form has been processed. And similarly, if you have underpaid contributions because you've been paying at a lower tier rate than your total pensionable pay dictates, then the practice needs to arrange to collect the arrears. Again, that's normally via payroll, but that is something you need to liaise with them around. So once that Type 2 form has been processed, then you can sort out the payment of the arrears with them. Just one thing to call out is that if the practice that you worked at has now closed, or the contract has changed to a different provider, and there has been an under or an overpayment of contributions by the practice, then that case unfortunately needs to be placed on hold at the moment, as PCSE are waiting on guidance from NHS England on the reconciliation of contributions for this scenario. Coming on to solo work, so the process that PCSE needs to follow is different depending on the type of solo work Type 2 GP has carried out. So if we start with out of hours solo work, if the employee contributions have been overpaid for the solo out of hours role, then PCSE's instructions are to process a refund to be paid to the out of hours provider. And then obviously the provider needs to sort that out, the GP. Similarly, if there has been an underpayment of solo contributions, then PCSE are instructed to contact the out of hours provider to request payment. So again, the provider would contact the GP to sort that out with them too. And just to mention, if an out of hours provider is no longer under contract for out of hours work when we're processing a Type 2 form, then PCSE needs to contact NHS Pensions on a case-by-case basis for advice. So that's another one that can be a little bit complex. Looking at ICB work, so GPs, Type 2 GPs who've worked as a clinical lead or board member for ICBs, so solo work. If there has been an overpayment for ICB solo work, then the process is that PCSE notify the ICB that the GP requires a refund, and the ICB will arrange that refund with the GP and advise when it has been processed. And again, that may be through the payroll process, but they will explain their local arrangements. And if the contributions have been underpaid for Type 2 GP solo work, then PCSE will notify the ICB that a shortfall payment is required, and the ICB will advise the GP and arrange collection of the shortfall and get that paid over to NHS Pensions. And then finally, GPs who have done solo work for NHS England as appraisers. That's a little bit different because this flows through NHS England's bank account. So if there has been an overpayment of employee contributions, then PCSE will process a refund to be paid direct to the GP, and if there has been an underpayment for your solo appraisal work, then PCSE will contact you as a GP to request payment for that shortfall in contributions. So it's obviously something to consider, looking at what type of solo work that you have done and just knowing what to expect when your form is being processed, in terms of if it's then determined that you have under or overpaid your employee contributions.